welcome back to the Rose Report YouTube channel. We are joined here today by our usual suspect, Ollie.
How you doing, fellas? You right?
And also, we've got a newbie on the channel. We've got a new man, young, fresh, ready for the video today. We've got Barney. Come on, Barney.
Yeah, it's good to be on. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Don't be silly. The pleasure is all ours for having you on. So anyway, season overview. It's been a funny old season, hasn't it? We're going to split it into two. We're going to split it to the first half of the season and the second half of the season. And what I want is, for each half, I want the best game you went to, or best game that you've watched, favourite player for that half of the season, and also out of 10, what you think for the season. I'm going to go straight to you, Ollie. Come on, give us a little overview and then focus on them three things.
Well, do you know, I still remember the start of the season, we got the first 3 wins. I wasn't massively convinced. I think in terms of in terms of how we've played, I think the second half of the season has been better. Okay. I remember watching the first half of the season and there was games, and I still remember games such as the one that sticks out for me like a sore thumb, Birmingham at home. Okay. Won the game 2-1. Birmingham absolutely battered us. We looked to shambles at the back. We weren't dominating the midfield. We weren't calm in defence. And up front, okay, we were clinical to a degree, but behind us, I was massively worried. And the defence was so makeshift. So I would argue, even though you could probably argue more points were accumulated in the first half of the season, I could be wrong for saying that. I think they were. I would say footballing terms, second half of the season was a lot better, even though obviously it didn't turn out the way that we quite wanted to be. In terms of players, first half seems really quite. I would probably go as far as saying Hayam because he stepped in really well. I thought he was going to take a while to adapt, and straight away, I think he's been a great light for from Darragh Lenihan. That's a hell of a role for somebody's shoes to fill. So he's taken that really well. The best game first half of the season I went to. Do you know what? I'm gonna say that in terms of how we played, and I think even the atmosphere, if you're gonna put all these kind of factors together, Blackpool away, okay. And I know, because I think because we took, 5,000. I think Adam Wharton's first game, let's not remember, he was absolutely amazing that game, and he's been the same ever since. The ball, I think it was Dak who played the ball, but the way they were played, and that was off the back end of losing 3 matches in a row as well. So, and great finish from Diaz. Second half of the season, without doubt, best match I've been to out of the whole season, Leicester City away in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
You're probably going to hear me say away days, lads. I do think our home support at times, it's not the greatest atmosphere. We can talk about that.
At times.
Majority of
the time, it's quite bad at home.
It is. And I think that's something which the club has tried to work on in terms of the ticketing pricing and what they're trying to do. I think it also comes from the fans as well. But the Leicester City away, Sam Simonic's second half of the season, without doubt, I would even go as far to say if it weren't for the first half of the season where he was initially taken out of the squad and put back into the under-23s for a bit, I think he'd be player of the season. But yeah, those are my sort of memories, if you want to call it that, from this season.
Do you know what? I love that because you've summarised your first and second half all in one, and I love that because we can pass it on to Barney next. But I think the first half of the season we were definitely riding our luck a bit, weren't we? But I don't mind it. You know what? Yeah, sometimes there's always the team, right, that gets the 3 points week in, week out, and they shouldn't get the 3 points. They don't deserve them, but they get them. And I didn't mind riding my luck a little bit, but you can just see second half of the season, the quality was there, but the luck wasn't there. It was just like the polar opposite of the first half. The first half, the quality weren't there with the passing, what JDT was trying to implement with the team. It's out the back football. The football wasn't there. But the luck, we were riding it to the very max. And I think, that's why I disagree with you a bit, Ollie. I think I'd much rather, right, see my team play bad football week in, week out, but get results. And that's just me being honest. I care about the results on the pitch. I don't. And I think most people care about the results on the pitch. It's all good. It's all good walking away from a game and going, oh, look, we played like a prime Barcelona, but we lost to Reading. Or, we played like a prime Real Madrid, but we just lost to Preston, or we just missed out because of this, At the end of the day, if you walk away from a game and go, we did play bad, but we've taken away all 3 points. If that wins you a league, if that gets you a promotion, then you take it.
And then I'm just gonna ever so slightly push back on that. And I totally get where you're coming from. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's just at the end of the day, right? Football, whether you like it or not, does have a little form of entertainment factor, okay? And that gets bums on seats and that gets people to the games. Now, early doors, don't get me wrong, I was sat there thinking, this is quite painful to watch. I wasn't sitting there going, oh, fantastic. Yeah, I would love to see that in the next game. I'd love to be having a game where literally, I wouldn't say on the edge of my seat with frills. It was just nerves and anticipation. And yeah, we could have done with those sort of results at the back end of the season. But yet again, I do think he was trying to find the balance in the second half of the season. And I'm sorry, but that Leicester City result, I don't care what people say, it wasn't a weakened Leicester side. It was a game where we just had everything about us. And we bloody deserved that result as well.
As soon as I saw they brought on Tete, didn't they? That Brazilian winger they just signed. They brought him on, didn't they? As soon as they put him on, I was like, they want this. They want this, and we're not giving it them. And, that was brilliant. But I'm going to pass it over on to Barney. Come on, your first half of the season, second half of the season, summarise it for us. What are you thinking?
Yeah, no, I'd agree with both your points, really. Matt talking about the fact that we were grinding out results. I would prefer that. But, Ollie's talking about it did look dire at sometimes. I remember watching Sunderland at home when Diaz scored that worldie and we won 2-1. But honest to God, for the last 30 minutes, it was like watching a train wreck. We were just riding our luck. On that, and on probably the best player of the season and the first half, you'd have to say Hayem. Hayem was, with the defence not looking as solid as it was, he just looks really solid. And you could put Kaminsky in that as well. Middlesbrough away comes to mind when he basically just clawed it off the line, which was an insane save. I don't think I've ever seen keepers bar maybe Shilton did it for England
that's
once.
Up there with saves of the season, 100%. In the whole as a general, that was incredible.
That's why he's number one, boys. End of story. All right, sorry.
We can get on it to it later, but because I actually think Pears should be number one. I really like Pears, but I was lucky enough to go to Blackpool away as well. I've been to Leicester away, and I agree with Blackpool away. That's probably my second best game in the first half of the season. Adam Wharton was just incredible, and you just thought, who is this kid? How is he this good? Because it's weird. It's weird for me, especially because I used to play against him. In youth level, I used to play for a team called Mill Hill. They'd always play against Blackburn Academy. I used to play against him, which is so weird to think about. But I'd probably say the best game, probably Watford 2-0 at home. I went there with two of my mates, and it was great atmosphere, and Hayem with the scorpion kick. It was such a good memory because we sat in the Blackburn end and the entire thing erupted. I'd probably say for the second half, the best player's got to be Smodic, and very close is JRC. JRC has been incredible. Yeah. No one can deny that. In fact, I think he's just signed a new contract, hasn't he? He signed it yesterday or today. Or he's thinking about it.
It's not been announced, but it's pretty much out there already. Yeah, he's signed it.
Yeah, and that's good news for any Blackburn fan. He's been so well. He's been so good on JDT in the second half. Smodic as well, incredible. The only real goal threat we've had for 2 months or 3 months, which is good. Does Leicester count as second half of the season? Because I went there as well, and it was such a good game. I enjoyed it so much.
There, aren't you? You're kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, well, I went with one of my mates is a Leicester fan, but he's never been to a Leicester game before in his life because he's from Greece. But he came over just to watch it with me because it's I'm a Blackburn fan, he's a Leicester fan. I'll buy his tickets and we'll go. And he's there panicking because his team's lost to Blackburn. But it was such a good time. But I'd probably say best game. I'd probably say Sheffield United. No. We lost in the FA Cup, but it was such a good day out, and I really enjoyed it. It's just such a shame we didn't get the points, and Hedges didn't smash it in at 3-1. It was such a shame.
Yeah, and
Barney, I was just going to point out, Barney, do you know what? I totally looked past the Watford game, but until you mentioned it, but I still remember, and this is from my memory. My brother hadn't been in a while, and I said to him, because of work, he can't go. And I said, look, I've got a ticket. We're playing Watford. Took him down, and I know what you mean. It just went from, it was a transition game. It almost felt like it. next year there was a team who was slightly on form with Edwards. They weren't a million miles off in the playoffs. They were doing quite well.
Mm.
And next thing you know, we were pressing, we were attacking, we had the chances. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I came away from that, and even I was like,
yeah, I remember Harry Pickering in the first 15 minutes clattered Ismail Assar, and you thought this is going to be a good game. I remember that.
Yeah.
It's like you sometimes you can just feel as a fan when your players really want it. You know what I mean? And that was one of those games. Can we talk about standout players or players that you think have really done well? I know a lot of people give Pez a lot of stuff, but I do think he's been very well. He's done very well. I think to be a second choice under Kaminsky and then having to step in and then playing every game since he stepped in. What game did he step in for? I can't remember. Didn't he step in for the Leicester game? And then since then he's basically played every game.
I think it was the game before Leicester, and then because I remember what it was, but the one game that like Pez reminds me of, like whenever I think about him anyway, was that Wigan FA Cup game.
Yeah, I was there as well. It was dreadful.
That was atrocious, and I think that's really why fans have kind of taken to him so much, because he set the bar down here, and then he's raised it all the way up here for himself as well. Yeah. It's kind of that redemption story that, I mean, you don't see it a lot. And, you've got this guy who he's got a rich dad. That's why he's sitting on the bench. It's the only reason he's there. He's come on a couple of times. He's played for us 2 times. And you go, every time he's played for us, he's been the reason we've lost the game. And he's come into this team, right? Kaminsky, it's not like JDT's gone, right, I'm going to give you a game over Kaminsky. You have to get into this team. All the pressure's on you as a goalkeeper, this out-the-back football we're playing yet. You're the start of our attack. That is what you are. You're not just a person saving the shots. You're not just getting pelted left, right, and centre all these shots at you. You're starting our attacks as well. And I tell you what, that boy's distribution is unbelievable. He's so comfortable. Honestly, I've never seen it in my life when it comes to a championship level goalkeeper being so composed at a team like us, and I'm happy for it. But if I'm moving into games, I'll be honest with you, I agree. That Blackpool game, Adam Wharton just came out of nowhere, didn't he? And you do think to yourself,
yeah, he did, yeah.
You're like, what is this kid? We know you're Scott Wharton's brother. We can tell that from a mile away. You look at the two and you go, look at them, But this man plays a complete different way to Scott. Different position, different everything. And he's just magic. He is the Wiltshire Perlo.
He is, yeah.
Unreal.
He just has a second more. That's what it is. He has a second more than everyone else in the pitch. And you watch it when he plays. The goal he scored against Millwall, I don't know if you watch it. He literally shifts to one side, and the defender's already gone, and he's already on the left side, and the defender has no clue. The midfielder's like looking around like this, doesn't have a clue where he is, and he just bends it in. And you're like, it's just mad to think about.
And this is it.
Do you know what I'm looking forward to, lads? I mean, I've said this in previous videos before. But I think he's been massively unlucky with injury with John Buckley. I mean, the thought of having Buckley and Wharton and seeing what they can do in the middle, and potentially having JRC in the middle, which, let's be honest, we were crying out for it all season. Maybe it was just me. It did work on Monday. I mean, potentially, who knows who's coming in the summer, but that ain't the worst middle three that I've heard, potentially.
No, it definitely isn't.
But apparently him playing midfield next year was a massive factor to why he actually signed the contract, is what I've been hearing on different things. Obviously rumours just fly about, but apparently one thing that he did want to do was play more central. And like you said, the Millwall game, I mean, the game against Luton, I mean, how unreal was he by himself, literally? Like, he was the only person who played football. If we had 10 of him on the pitch in front of Ainsley Pers that game, we win. You know what I mean?
I know.
He was that.
It's like against the Huddersfield game. Like a Huddersfield game, he basically clawed it back. I was there watching that as well, and he, honest to God, got us going. Because 2-0 against Huddersfield, we were all the away end was like, "What is this? This is terrible." But yeah, no, he pulled us out, and he's been a real star for us this season.
I mean, he had more.
Do you know what I loved about it as well is I'm not knocking Travis, because we'll probably get to Travis. I've always loved Lewis Travis. I've always believed if you set up a brick wall and tell him to run through it, he'd go and do it for you. But there was a lot of time last season where I think he'd take a little bit of a snapshot, be in the box. I've not really seen much of that this year. But Costello, this is a guy who's been playing right back, and even look at his goal against Huddersfield. He wanted to be in the box. Look at his goal against Millwall. He wanted to be there for that's the kind of players, and that's what I think we do need obviously going into next season.
Yeah, do you know what?
No, I'd agree.
One thing I think as well, I'm sorry, Barney, but One thing I truly believe is I think Travis was never meant to be captain. I think that was quite a panic thing, realizing we've got a very lack of leadership. You know, you got Dak, who was probably one of the standout ones because Linehan went, and you think, oh, well, Dak's been there the longest, but then his injury record just went completely against him ever getting that. And you sit there and you go, who else can you give it to? And you go, well, Travis is our longest serving there. And he plays a crucial role in the middle when he does play. It's kind of, we just got to give it him. And next year, I think we all know who's going to get it. If Hyam doesn't get it, I mean, that's unbelievable. But I think that Travis, when it comes to the midfield, you know, these are the type of debates we want for the end of the season roundup. After seeing what he's put into this team this season, yeah, I think the passing ability just isn't there. I think what you want from your midfielder, you want your midfielder to make that one ball right that opens up play completely. I only seen him do it once. It was that back heel to Galley this year. Was it Travis who did that? Or
that was Gallagher. That was Gallagher.
It was like a switch pass he did to Gallagher. It was in one of the games.
Oh, QPR.
Yeah.
Was it QPR away?
Oh,
I must admit, it's so underrated because if that's a Premier League match, that pass is talked about for the week on week and so underrated, and it just came out absolutely nowhere.
But in my head, he's the last person on the pitch who does that in the midfield, because I just don't see anything passing wise. What attracts me to think he can play JDT style of football. You know, under Mowbray, he flourished because, you know, we want a tough, rough tackler who's going to chuck himself on the line, yeah. Whereas he just hasn't got that little edge for me when it comes to JDT's football, whereas John Buckley does. You know, I even think that Tyler Morton, if he had another year here, he probably would have that over Travis. But Adam Wharton and John Buckley in midfield next year excites me so much to the max. I think we've got something serious going on. It's just getting that number 9. But the next one I do want to bring it on, but like Barney said there before, and you and Ollie are going to have a little head-to-head here. This is going to be like a preview. This should be like a Mitzvix boxing match or something. Pers versus Kaminsky, because I already know Ollie's ready to give you that right uppercut that knocks you out with it.
You can try.
Look, for the first and foremost, I do rate Pers. I'm not going to sit here and tell him. I do think his distribution's been good. I've maybe not seen as much shot stopping as I wanted. I do think Kaminsky commands it a lot more. I don't understand what he's done incredibly wrong, Kaminsky, to be pushed out of the squad, really, for me. Pers has shown signs. Look, like I still remember when he had his debut, and I could be wrong for saying this. I think it was against Bournemouth last year away. Probably one of the best matches we've seen. I could be wrong, maybe.
Yeah, you are right. You are right. I think you are.
Yeah. And you know what? He had a really good game. For a keeper that just stepped in and matched it before, as a number 2, you'd like to think that when you call upon your number 2, he's ready to go. All right, there might be not enough game time, but he's ready to rock and roll. And he stepped in really well. And it's so good to know that we've now got two good keepers. However, I just think based on age, based on experience, shot-stopping ability, I think Kaminsky just takes it. Now, that's not me saying it because I've got a guy who knows him and I'm just trying to score some extra brownie points. So nothing to do with that whatsoever.
You don't have to lie to us, Ollie. We know, man.
No, it's true. You're right. But anyway, look, I've rated Kaminsky since he first stepped into that goal, and he's been nothing but solid for us under the Mowbray era, and even with JDT as well. I'd be really disappointed for me if we lost him. Look at the decision making on Monday between him and Pickering. Okay, that for me was signs that communication-wise they lack it. I'm a believer that Kaminsky would have taken that ball. I'm a believer that some of the shot stopping. Look at the third goal with Burke. That goal should not go in for me. That sounds really naive as obviously not a professional footballer, but that shot was stoppable for the third goal. I really do think that. You could argue the Burke. Yet again, distribution, fantastic. If you were to put a combination of 2 lads together, I think we've got a match made in heaven. You definitely have. I just think Kaminsky, I wouldn't even say ever so slightly. He's got a massive edge on the boy.
Right,
Can I surprise you all?
Barney, it's you now.
I want to surprise you. I'm going to agree with a lot of what you say, but I think the thing that you're forgetting about this is this all banks on JDT, and I think it goes back to a point that I will say the worst thing that could happen to Blackburn Rovers in this January or the summer is JDT leaving. And you see some of the speculation. Although he always says it's a project, the stuff he said at Millwall, I hope he doesn't leave. I hope he stays. But I think if he stays, I think there's a very high possibility that Kaminsky will leave, because I think it's part of the fact that not only is it's he needs to make it his team. JDT wants to make it his team. He wants it to play the way he wants it to play. I do agree. The game against Millwall, you could probably put half of it on Pickering, because Pickering, not only for the Burt goal, probably steps off a bit too much. Of course, I'll agree with your point that we're not footballers. We don't know what they're thinking or anything, but you could probably put both of those goals like half on Pickering, because he makes mistakes for them. But I think I don't know if you could put it down to it, but I don't think John Dahl Tomasson likes Kaminsky that much, likes his play style, and maybe not even as a person, because I mean he's been fit for 2 months and he's not really played him, hasn't he? So we don't know what's going on in that dressing room, but I think maybe JDT sees not potential, but a chance to create his own team using pairs, using that type of player. So for that reason, and for the fact that I'm a really big JDT fan and the way he plays, I think I've got to go with pairs.
Yeah.
No, and you know what, and like you said, well, you know, this is the beautiful thing about doing this, because we're never going to agree on everything. Okay, it's opinionated views, and do you know what? The one thing I could say, and I'll give JDT this kind of sidetracks, well, ever blends in with what we're saying here. There's been so many times this year where he's taken players out the squad. He's taken Travis out. He's taken Simonics out. He's taken Dak out. Okay, and you think. Now, we always hear things that's going on in the background. We always hear little whispers and social media and everything else. And there's always things I hear that always, you know, JDT is quite arrogant. He does the things he wants to do, etc. It's a transition season, okay? These players have been so used to Tony Mowbray fabric, okay, that obviously someone else coming in completely flipping it on a different culture is really going to shock them. And you know what? I must admit, I'm so happy with the way he's, you know, taking the players out, put them in 23s, but he's got a reaction out of them, right?
Yeah.
Now, most footballers would throw their toys out the pram and say, oh, no, I don't want to be here. New club, Do you know what? They fought for their place. And I think that's what's gained him a lot of respect. Buckley wasn't his favourite at all. Buckley now, for me, if it wasn't for the injury, would be his one starter, guaranteed every game. And I think that, and I must admit, as much as I didn't see it at first, thinking this guy's dead arrogant, do you know what? I give him credit for how he's done well with those players. You know, and you're right with what you're saying. He wants to put his stamp on this squad. He needs a transfer window with funds, which January was a complete and utter cock up. Okay.
Yep.
And I don't want this guy to go. Any Rovers fan that says he wants to go,
They haven't been watching.
Really, I know. I really want to be kind when I say it, but I just think you've been looking from afar, and you know you've not really grasped. This guy is a serial winner as a player. Okay, he was a serial striker. He's won Champions Leagues. I believe this guy can take us to the next level.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing. I think now he's got all summer now, hasn't he? He can do all his scouting. He's got all his scouts doing what he wants them to do out there now. If that's in Europe, if that's in the lower leagues, it looks like we're going to the lower leagues at the minute. But I'm guessing that is due to the points that people need to come over to the UK now in order to actually play English football. You know, that it all comes down to that. But I'm sure we'll all sit down together, us three. I'm liking how this is laid out with us three at the minute. I'm sure that us three can sit down over there and talk some transfer stuff. But you know, let's just summarize, right? So, boys, first half of the season, the game, right? Are we going with the Blackpool game at Bloomfield?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I think we've got it. We've got it, yeah.
Second half of the season, what are we saying? Are we saying Leicester or Sheffield?
Well, to be fair, I listen to what Barney says and he's right, because give it millimeters, and that was such a great performance. 6,000 of us there. You know, it was ticking boxes, but it wasn't meant to be. It was blown out the water in 5 minutes, wasn't it? You know what I mean? So for me, and I think with the Leicester game as well, I mean, if you had to be there, the atmosphere was just amazing. The crowd was just phenomenal. And you know what? Like, even the BBC commentators and that was saying, wow, look at this team. Even look at the goal for Simonic. Gallagher running back, winning the ball, gets to Simonic, pushes himself through 3 defenders. Look at the Dolan goal. Look how we pressed for it. And look how we played football that game. We weren't lucky. We played Leicester off the park. I genuinely think that was the best game ever.
There's one player that you focus on there a little bit, Dolan. We'll have to do a separate video on him because I don't know if you boys know, but it looks like he might be running down his contract. It looks like he might not be wanting to sign a new one, but we'll talk about that another time. So we've got Bloomfield, first game, right? Second game, we've got the Sheffield one. Are we all in agreement on the Sheffield one yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Then we'll just go for an overall player of the season. Are we going Hyam or Schmodix? We've got limited time to record the rest of this, so come on, we need an answer quickly, boys.
It's got to be Hyam. I think it's got to be Hyam. It's just the way it was, in the first half.
What are we saying then? What are we saying? Come on, Ollie. Are we agreeing with Hyam?
Do you know, I've said in many videos before, and I said to you, if Shamonix never would have been out the squad, it'd be Shamonix. But let's be honest, Hyam's been there since the start, and barring the Preston game, you know what I mean. It's he has been consistent, so I can't knock him. Otherwise,
look, sometimes things happen in life, and Hyam's put himself on the line like he has all season, but unfortunately, it's ended up in the back of the bet. It's simple as that. But I think that rounds the video off well. I think we've had a good discussion there, boys. I think it's been a lovely debate. I think what's nice about this one is there's been a bit of back and forth. There's been a bit of disagreement, but it's all healthy discussion, and I really do love it. But I want to thank you both for joining. First of all, Ollie, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Hopefully do more during the summer as well going forward.
And a debut today for Barney. You could say it was a bit like an Adam Morton today, actually. Fair play. He's absolutely hasn't he? So, Barney, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, no worries. Pleasure. Thank you.
No, the pleasure's all ours, mate. But yeah, make sure to all like, subscribe, hit the bell, and what do you call it? Make sure also I put down below all of Ollie's stuff there. I'll put Barney's stuff down there. I know he doesn't want it, but I'll do it anyway.
Don't give me a follow. Don't follow me.
Hey, he's a lovely guy. Make sure to everyone give them all the love in the world. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure you do all that stuff, and we'll see you next time for some transfers, Dolan talk, leavings, ins and outs, all that rubbish. But yeah, take care, guys.